Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at some statistics shortcuts on the calculator. So first of all, what is statistics? That's the field or the study of collecting, analyzing, interpreting, and even presenting data. What's data? It's a list or a series of numbers. For example, this that I have here, 23, 66, 68, 48, 56, 55, 84, 58, 55, and 85. That's a set of data. So some of the statistics that we're going to find related to this, or the measures, will be the mean, the median, the mode, the range, and we're even going to talk about outliers. So I know that you have done all of, if not all of these, most of these before. So I want to go through and do the ones that we're still going to do by hand before I show you the ones that we're going to move to using the calculator for. So mean, we know we add up all the numbers and divide by how many data points we have. We're not going to do that like that. I'm going to show you a shortcut on Desmos. Same thing with the median. Your median, you order the numbers from least to greatest, you find the middle number or middle numbers, take the average, and that's your median. We're going to do that on the calculator as well. So let's go to mode. The mode is the number that shows up the most, okay? So the number that shows up the most in this set of data, and actually if you need to, you can write that down. Mode shows up the most. You can have no mode, several modes, one mode, and in this case, I notice that 55 shows up more than once, so that mode is 55. And let me check. Let's look. Do we have any other numbers that show up more than one time? And I'm just going one at a time and checking all of these out. And it looks to me like 55 is our only mode. Now let's talk about what the range is. The range is your highest number minus your lowest number. Well, we're going to start calling that your maximum minus your minimum. So what is our maximum value here? I see an 85. Is there anything any bigger? No. And let's talk about our lowest value. I see a 23, and that is our lowest value. So what we're going to do is subtract those. So 85, take away 23, is going to give us a range of 62. So my range is 62. And now let's talk about outliers before we go over to the calculator. Outliers are pieces of data I like to call outsiders. They are so far different or are very, very different. They kind of look out of place with the other data. So if I look at this, like I have 23, and then I noticed the next number up from that would be 48. Everything else is pretty close. You got some stuff in the 40s, in the 50s, a couple of things in the 60s, and then the 80s. I would say 23 is what's called an outlier. So yes, we have an outlier. We have an outsider piece of data. So that being said, let's go over to Desmos. And I want to show you how to create a list, okay? So as a matter of fact, let me go back to our notes. Here's what you're going to do. To create a list in your calculator, you're going to type L equals, and then you're going to put a bracket. It's kind of like a parenthesis, but it's solid and square. You're going to type in your numbers and close the bracket. Okay, so let's go over and do that. We're going to type, and I want it to be capital, L equals, and we're going to want to use the bracket. The bracket, make sure it's the solid bracket. Now let's type in our numbers. The first one is 23, comma, 66, comma, 68, comma, 48, comma, 56, comma, 55, comma, 84, comma, and again, you can use your keyboard or what's on Desmos with your mouse. 58, let's see, 84, 58, comma, 55, comma, and 85. And then we have to make sure we put that closing, that closing bracket, and then hit enter. So now we have all of our elements or all of our pieces of data in there. This, guys, is so exciting. So first let's find, because I just learned this myself. I played around and learned it myself. Let's find the mean. Now remember, before, the mean or average, we had to add up all the numbers, divide by how many there were. Watch this. I'm going to type mean, M-E-A-N. Now make sure everything is lowercase. And then I'm going to put parenthesis, make sure it's a parenthesis, not a brace or a bracket. Parenthesis, what did I name my list? Capital L, closing parenthesis. And it finds the mean for me. So my mean is 59.8. 59.8. Guess what? I can do the same thing. Now that I have my list in there, I can do all kinds of stuff with it, which is the goal of this lesson. So I found the mean. I'm going to find the median. Be sure everything is lowercase. So median, make sure, median, A-N, parenthesis, and we'll write this in the notes in just a minute, capital L, closing parenthesis. So the median of my data is 57. So that is how you find, and let's write that down. So I've shown you up here how to type in your list. And let's just, for the sake of this, let's name all of our lists capital L. So to find the mean, we do mean, parenthesis, L. To do the median, remember everything is lowercase, we do median, parenthesis, L. And that's all we can do with that on the calculator. But I want you to leave your list there because there's even more stuff. Well, let me show you the next thing we're going to do. With this same data, we're going to find what is called the distribution of the data. Before this year, I had students take this information, create a histogram. A histogram is kind of like a bar graph where all of the bars touch, and they had to analyze it this way. You get to learn the shortcut. Okay, so when we talk about distribution, we're just talking about the shape of the data. Okay, so the shape of the data or the set of numbers, that's what data is, or data. So there are three ways that data can be shaped or distributed. So if it is symmetric, it's S-Y-M-M-E-T-R-I-C. It is said to have no skew. Skew just means not fully developed. And if you were to draw the histogram, like I used to make my students do, it would look something like this. It'd be pretty balanced, okay? But you're going to use the mean and median. If the mean that you found equals the median, if they are the same number, then your data is symmetric. There is no skew. Now let's look at the other two types of shape. Sometimes your data will have what's called a left skew, or it will be skewed left. Here's what that means for the shape. If you were going to do a histogram, see how it's lower on the left? That means it's skewed. It's not as full. It's not as developed. But you don't have to do a histogram. You're going to look at your mean and your median. If your mean, and this makes sense looking at the picture, if your mean is less than your median, if your mean is less than your median, then it is said to be skewed left. or have a left skew. Well, what's opposite of left? Right. So your data is going to have a right skew. It's going to be shaped with a right skew or skewed to the right. And if we drew the histogram, it would look like this. See how the right-hand side is lower? But you can look at your mean, and if it is greater than your median, then that's how you know it is skewed right. So let's go up here. Up here, my mean is 59.8. So let's write this out. So let's look at our example here. My mean from the data I just worked with is 59.8. My median, going back up here, is 57. So how do those compare? My mean is greater than my median. So let's describe the distribution. My mean is greater than my median. So this data is skewed to the right or has a right skew. That is how you're going to use your median, your mean, and your median to describe the shape of your data. So you're going to practice that today. There's one more thing we're going to do with this same list, with the same exact list of data, and that is we're going to get a 5-number summary from a box plot. So we're going to look at a box plot 5-number summary. Now, I'm not going into depth about what all this means. In this lesson, I just want you to practice identifying this stuff on the calculator. So, when I talk about a box plot or a 5-number summary, this is what I mean. You're going to use the calculator to create something that looks like this. That is called a box plot. And when I talk about the 5 points of, or the 5-number summary, here's what I'm talking about. We've already talked about a minimum number. That's your lowest value. If the minimum is the lowest, your maximum is your top. So wherever that is on the number line, that's your maximum number. The median is your middle number. We already know the median of this data, so it's going to be interesting to see what the box plot looks like. And then these points right here are called your quartiles. So this number right here is your lower quartile, or sometimes you'll hear it called Q1, and this number right here is your upper quartile. And sometimes you'll hear that called Q3. All right, so now that I have shown you what those 5 numbers are on a box plot, we're going to use, and you're going to have examples to practice, but we're going to use this same list, okay? I don't want to change the list. So I already have that in Desmos, but to get the box plot, I'm going to type box plot, parenthesis, the name of my list is L, correct? Closing parenthesis. So let's go over here and do that. I'm going to clear this stuff out, but not my list, because I want to use my list. Uh-oh, did I just delete something? No. Make sure I didn't. There we go. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to type all lowercase letters, box plot, P-L-O-T, parenthesis, and remember, capital L is the name of my list. Now, I can't exactly see that right now, so you're going to have to, whoa, look at that. Look at what it did. It excluded outliers. That's the one thing I want you all to do. I want you, actually, you know what? Let's exclude outliers. Were we correct? See, I just learned something else. Look at that. Did we say 23 was an outlier? Well, come on, let's go. We sure did. So we were correct. All right, sorry, I just learned something else new. All right, so let's look at our box plot. So, what is our minimum value? You see how the very first part is over 48? So on my, let's do a different color here. So for this list, I have 48 is my minimum. Now let's find our first quartile value. So you see the box plot. If I make it smaller, see that box plot? But I need to make it bigger to read my points here. So my Q1, or my lower quartile, is at 55. So I'm going to label that here 55. Let's find our median. Our median is going to be that middle of the box. And it looks like that's at 57. Is that what we got earlier? Let's see. Yup, look at that. Same information. I like that. Okay, let's find our upper quartile, or our Q3. And all I'm doing is I'm finding the position, and then I'm going down on the number line here. Like, see how it matches up or lines up with 68? So my Q3, or upper quartile, is 68. And last but not least, let's look at our maximum value. Our maximum value is 85. And you'll notice up here, all of that is the same. All of that, like our minimum value was 48, well, except the outlier, that's the only difference up here. So that is how you use the calculator to help you find different pieces of information. So I want you to practice. I want you to find the mean, the median, using the calculator. Then use your mean and median to describe the distribution or the shape of your data. And then I want you to use that same list to create a box plot and label your 5-number summary. I'll talk to you